What's up? This is Ryder Sports with another WWE video. And this time it's going to be the top 10 worst WWE Tag Team Champions of all time. Just like the other videos, it's going to be more modern, so probably late 90s until now. This be the only things that get covered. But and also since this is the worst list, I'm not going to include teams like John Cena and The Miz or John Cena and David Otunga, because they didn't have it for long at all, and it wasn't even meant to be taken serious. They're not an actual team. You get me? So anyway, getting right into it. Number 5, worst WWE Tag Team Champions. I'm going to go with Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. I hate doing that because I honestly like both of the people. I was actually a really big Zack Ryder fan back in the day. But honestly, when they had the titles in 2008, when they were with Edge, they didn't mean it. The titles didn't mean anything. They ended up losing them a couple months after they won them to Carlito and Primo. And there wasn't really much to that reign. Right when they won them, they kind of moved away from Edge. And, Edge was kind of the only thing that gave them character. They were literally called the Edgeheads. So without Edge, they weren't really much of anything. And, and then they won the titles again in 2019, and I actually thought that was going to be a good reign because it ended Kurt Hawkins' losing streak. But as soon as they won the titles, they couldn't win another match. And they were barely even on the screen. And somehow the Usos and the Revival were having a rivalry, not even about the tag team titles. And that was on TV every week, but yet the champions were nowhere to be seen. And I don't even think that they defended the titles until they lost them. And it was in a triple threat against the Revival and the Usos. It was on Raw, episode of Raw. And yeah, man, especially that last reign, they really had a lot of potential to be something good. But every time that Kurt Hawkins and Ryder have won the tag titles, which is only twice, it just hasn't been good. Coming up next is the Spirit Squad from 2006. That was, of course, the cheerleaders. Kenny, Mickey, Johnny, Mitch, Nikki. I think that was all of them. Dolph Ziggler was in there though, and he that's really where he made his first big impact. Other than being with Chavo Guerrero as his golf caddy. They won the tag team championships, and in the moment probably didn't seem that bad, or maybe it did. But looking back in hindsight, they didn't go anywhere after, and they barely defended those tag titles when they had them. And even when they did, they never defended them against DX. And even if they did, it ended in a DQ. Their whole feud with DX, it was never about the titles. It was about them being Vince McMahon's henchmen. And I just don't think that did any justice to the tag titles. And as soon as they got out of that storyline, they started feuding with the Highlanders. And who remembers those guys? So, yeah, man, Spirit Squad, number 4 on this list. Number 3 is going to be a year after the Spirit Squad, but on SmackDown instead of Raw, and it's Deuce and Domino. Bro, when I was little, when I was a kid, I used to just watch past WWE matches, and I actually was watching a lot of Deuce and Domino. Not that I was a big fan of them, but I just thought it was so interesting how these guys, they had these weird characters, and they were the tag team champions, but they were they're the most forgettable team ever. Nobody remembers Deuce and Domino. But they were around for a little while. They ended Paul London and Brian Kendrick's year-long reign. But they didn't do anything with those titles. I don't even think that they ever defended them on pay-per-view. It was obvious that the Raw tag titles were the more prestigious titles than versus the SmackDown ones. And that's just how it was at the time. Not to say that they were terrible, but definitely wasn't their fault. They could have been given, better feuds, but hey, They lost him to Matt Hardy in MVP, and that was a really good team. Number 2 on this list, I'm gonna go with Santino Marella and Vladimir Kozlov, and that was in I want to say late 2010, early 2011. I think they were actually feuding, and then Vladimir turned face, and he joined Santino, and it was just kind of weird, like. But WWE does that a lot, if somebody comes in with a winning streak, and they're like a big 6'8", 7 foot, guy, they usually always eventually turn into a funny guy, like a comedy guy who never wins any championships, unfortunately. I mean, of course, there's examples that, oppose that, but for the most part, look at guys like Vladimir Kozlov, guys like Ryback. Just look how they ended up in the end. Even a guy like Big Show, legend, he turned into a funny guy towards the end. But, man, when they won the titles, 2010 and 2011 was pretty bad for tag titles in WWE. I mean, but when they won them, I was like, as a kid, I was like, okay, Vladimir Kozlov and Santino Marella. I was like, well, but see, when I was a kid, I was kind of blinded. I didn't really look at the tag team division as anything special to begin with, so I didn't really bat an eye. Man, 10 years later down the line, you look back and you're like, all right, late 2010, you got Santino and Kozlov. Late 2000, you got Edge and Christian. Like, there's a clear discrepancy with those two teams, bro. So, it took me a while to realize it, but, man, and the matches they had were pretty bad. Vladimir was not good. Like, I'm sorry. I ain't want to talk. I ain't never stepped in the ring, but he was not good. Santino, I got a soft spot for him. He was really funny back in the day. But I mean, and that was the perfect place for him to be was a tag team champion. But maybe just not. Maybe with somebody else, And the number 1 worst WWE tag team champion of all time. I'm honestly gonna have to go with the 2004 reign of Rico and Charlie Haas. Bro, there was a few reigns that I thought about putting on here, like Kenzo and Rene Dupree in the same year, 04. William Regal and Eugene in 05. Or even Hurricane and Rosie in 05. But as much as those guys didn't do anything for the tag division, I mean, this shit was literally to the point where it made me not want to watch it. Not that I was watching at the time, but I've gone back and watched like 2004 SmackDowns, and when these guys were on the screen, I kind of didn't want to watch. It was weird. It was like Rico was gay, but he came out with a girl, and Charlie Haas was not gay, but he was attracted to the girl. But then the gay wrestler, who was also his tag team partner, which Charlie didn't want that to be the case anyway, had an interest in him, bro. So he was trying to fuck Charlie. Charlie's trying to fuck the bitch, and the bitch is seemingly trying to fuck Rico, I guess. I don't know. Either way, they had those titles for probably a month or two. Man, it couldn't have been any longer. But, man, they lost them to the Dudley Boys. They weren't anything special. There's nothing to even go over besides the fact that they won them from Too Cool, Rico and Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. And that match was a fruity match because he's a fruity character. Rico is. Ain't nothing wrong with that, but it didn't click with me, man. Charlie Haas and Rico, in my opinion, worst WWE Tag Team Champions of all time. And that was the top 5 worst WWE Tag Team Champions of all time.